Hello everybody, it is Ebontis, and today I've got a review for you, and honestly one that was a surprise because I thought it might be something that I would enjoy, but I never expected to enjoy it as much as I did. Now I'm going to go through as spoiler-free as possible in this review and talk to you guys about a game that honestly I hope a lot of you play. Now, when you say the word Metroidvania, I know that does different things for different people. Obviously, Super Metroid, Castlevania, those are epic games in the series. You've got Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I loved both of those. I mean, you got emotional storytelling, cool graphics, great soundtrack. You had Hollow Knight, absolutely well-renowned by damn near everybody. And then Silksong can't come here fast enough, but it's been delayed forever, but hopefully for good reason. I mean, we're talking about some really epic games when you say the word Metroidvania. And I can happily tell you, and I'm going to go through the reasons why I think so, but Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a great entry in the Metroidvania series and one that surprised me on so many fronts. Because you've got a unique take on combat for this genre. You've got some features that I did not expect to see. You've got a wide range of difficulty settings and accessibility settings that I think really makes this probably one of the most approachable games in this entire genre that I have ever seen, which is really nice, which means a whole lot of people hopefully can play this thing and enjoy their time with it however easy or difficult they want. And on top of that, you've got a cool story and an awesome looking world to go with it. Overall, I don't have a whole lot of negative to talk about this thing if you can't tell already. But what I want to do now is get into my full review for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and I want to thank Ubisoft Montpellier and Ubisoft as part of their Ubisoft Creator Program for this early access key. So let's jump in. Here we go. So the story starts out, you are one of the immortals of Persia, kind of one of the ones who are meant to protect the realm of Persia. And an invasion happens, things happen, you fight people off, and then when that's all done, then somehow the actual Prince of Persia gets kidnapped. And you have to chase whoever, captured the prince. And you head into this area called Mount Kaf. And you realize when you get there, things are not exactly as you would expect, and something has happened to time, which gets to be a bit of an interesting idea as well. Overall, the story, while it may not be the strongest point in the game because there are so many really high notes to the game, I think it's a pretty good story. Is it mind-blowing or earth-shattering or anything of that nature? I probably wouldn't go that far, but I think it's a pretty cool story, and it definitely services all the elements of the game very well. I just don't know if the story is the highest note in comparison to some other things in the game. Now, my big highlight, probably my most important one, is combat. So combat in this game is fantastic. It is a Metroidvania. There is plenty of platforming, there are puzzles to solve, but this game is more focused around combat than I honestly would have expected, and it is a massive pleasant surprise. So first off, you got these little yellow charge attacks, which you get to do occasionally, and if it's a normal enemy, it's pretty much gonna kill him when you actually get the counter perfectly. Now, the parries are fun. You can actually go into difficulty settings and stuff and make some of that stuff more accessible, but don't worry too much because it can really be... The settings and options that you have really can make this game whatever you want it to be. Now, depending on what this guy does, these are just satisfying. But if you do one of those on a normal enemy, they will die. Straight up. They're going down. But the option is, there's a lot of stuff I don't want to show you because it just kind of spoils the fun of when you get to experience it for the first time. Because I checked out the trailers and they skip a lot of stuff. Okay, there's a little bit of a tease. I probably threw a couple things in there, but overall, you guys get the idea. The combat is a lot more. It's got like almost a fighting game, juggling situation going on. You've got good parries. You've also got the ability to dodge if parry's not your thing. You've got, the air juggling moves that you can do are legit, and you don't get that double dash till later, but that's just a really good example of it's really fun. And then you've got these Athra surges. So this one, for example, one of the early ones you get, is like you almost do like a corkscrew and then you do a big charge up. Now I'm in a practice dummy mode here, and this is one thing I highly recommend. Go hang out in this guy's combat arena, do all of the little tests, they're simple, but it's just going to show you some stuff and a couple you wouldn't think of. Because this is one of the ones in here and it's a basic move and I'll show you. You have a charge up, pretty legit move. It covers damn near the whole screen. Now he can run through that magically, which is impressive. But that's when they're on kind of one of their crazy attacks. But the idea here is you have this, And then I have the ability to actually get another copy of me later. Now it's charged up and I saved myself in time right when I was about to do that, and I've got that saved. So you can actually save up 2 of them, and it shows you in the training. So combat in this game is way more than you're probably going to expect. And without spoiling all the fun, it's going to be one of those things that as people who are really good at fighting games are probably going to have a blast in this thing. But if you're not, there's plenty of stuff honestly, that is not overly difficult. And then you've got options like amulets that are going to kind of change how you play, because you've got some things that you might not expect to see. Yep. So a couple teases there for you guys of things you might not expect. But overall, the combat in this game is one of the massive highlights, and one of the reasons I rated it so high, because it's just satisfying the entire way through. And I literally never get tired of those. Now, I don't want to give anything away with regards to stories and quests and characters and abilities. I teased a couple there in combat for you, so, you know, that just gives you a glimpse of what's in there. A lot of it's in the trailers, actually. If you haven't seen the trailers for this game, it gives away more than I would prefer, but again, that's just a preference. But amulets are how you're actually going to customize a lot of things. I went for more of an offensive build, but you can completely flip it to the opposite and go defensive on your setup. You can do elemental resistance. You can do things based specifically off parries, which I have a little bit of, but didn't lean in all the way. Prime example right here. Greatly increases the damage of arrows. Seems very simple, but you'll notice below it, it has one little pip or dot. Basically, that is one amulet slot, or at least one amulet slot cost. Below it, you've got something worth 3. So I went for something that's going to increase damage, and you notice it says greatly. You have the ability to upgrade each of your artifacts twice. So it goes from like slightly to moderately to greatly, or small, medium, and large. However it goes, it's always usually 2 on a lot of these is what I've seen, unless they ever do a new game plus later, who knows. But this is an offensive build. Now on the other side, you'll notice something like this. I've upgraded it once, so it's +1. Moderately decreases the power of incoming melee attacks. So if you want to take less damage, you completely have the option right here to set yourself up. Now it takes 3, slots of amulets, so you're going to be giving up other things to do this. But if you're not as worried about damage, maybe you're doing it on a normal difficulty, but damage is still hurting you a little bit, and you're going more of a survivability thing, bam, right here. Excellent, excellent option. If you go on the other side, I've got this one, the Will of Rostam. Greatly increase the power of standard sword attacks. Now this one costs 2. So all of these are going to be a little bit of give and take, little risk versus reward on some, little defensive, little offensive, and all of those things are really going to allow you to change how you play. But the fact that I haven't found them all, and there's probably at least 25 of these things, I don't even know how many more I haven't found, but probably 25 plus. I've found a decent amount though, I think. You really can play this game a completely different way than I did and still have success. So you'll start with about 3 of the charges that you can use. So you'll start with 3 little circles. And then as you find amulet slots, you'll charge up more and more, kind of like that one that I haven't used currently on the far end at 11. There's probably going to be 12, I'm guessing, but don't hold me to that. I'm not entirely sure. But for the time being, the fact that you've got combat that involves so much juggling, and unique tools that you'll get and abilities that pair into combat, and then the fact that the combos all go together, you pair all of how you can, how you feel combat feels best for you, pair that with an amulet system that makes your character play the way you want it to. You've got a ton of customization here that is actually really, really cool. Now, the Athro Surges I told you about, but I don't want to spoil too many of those, so we're going to go to the system settings now, and this is where you make the game even more your own. Because for accessibility, depending on what your needs are, you may or may not need some accessibility options, but it's actually got some pretty cool ones. For a Metroidvania, I never expected this one. Platforming Assist lets you create a portal to skip challenging platforming sections. Maybe you're just like having a rough go on some platforming section. You can turn on a portal and skip that one, and then if you're like, I don't want to, cheat myself out of the rest of the game, come back in here and turn it off. Turn it off as much as you want. You can have a freezing effect, which takes you like shaking the controller kind of thing. You can, if that type of input isn't great for you, turn it off. You've got high contrast mode where you can desaturate the background. You can see what the colors are going to be. All of this stuff is going to help people enjoy the game. And I think this type of stuff is fantastic. If you want to see what stuff's interactable, if you're like, I just don't want to search every little nook and cranny, or if I did make it through a crazy puzzle, I don't want to miss something, you can turn on the little dots that are on the map and literally on screen to say, hey, by the way, something's over here kind of thing. So I think this stuff is really cool, but even more than the accessibility, surprisingly, is one of the options. And we're talking about difficulty. Now you've got difficulty modes. I played on Hero. You know, I'm used to these types of games, so I do kind of enjoy the challenge. I did not need to bash my head against the wall because I actually wanted to try and get this review done. But you've also got Rookie, and you'll notice what it does. So Warrior is 1.0 for damage. I had Hero, so I was higher enemy and environmental damage, but the enemy health was normal. If I could get the damage off and survive, I can still kill them like normal, as opposed to here where they have even more health. But if these are a new type of thing to you, or maybe it's just, you know, not really your game, but you think it might be worth experiencing, or you just get completely frustrated and want to beat the story, turn it on Rookie. Enemy damage is halved, environmental damage is halved, enemy health is halved. That alone will definitely change the way the game feels. Then you've got parry difficulty, normal, hard, easy. How tight is that timing window? Dodge window, is it long or is it normal? They don't have a short one on that. And then your Athra, that thing with those like really cool like charge up animated attacks that you can do, not like the perfect parry but the other one. You can actually have that, how often it depletes, how quickly you can gain it. All of these are options in here, and honestly what I would tell you, if one of these changes makes the game more fun, if you want a more or less of a challenge or whatever it is for you, just do it. Have fun. No one's gonna like, you know, catch what you're doing. So overall, I gotta say, these settings I think are one of the biggest surprises to see in this game, but between the difficulty, the accessibility, the unique nature of the combat, and the amulets to change up how you play, I really think this whole like create your own experience in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is very unique, but also very, very excellent. So hats off to Ubisoft Montpellier for this one. So the final thing that I want to talk about before we kind of wrap this up is the world. So what you're going to see on screen is me just kind of running around some areas. You might see me doing a little combat, but my goal is just to show you a little variety of some of the biomes, if you want to call them that you're going to be running around in, the different areas that you're going to see, and just to see the different architecture and the design stylings. It's all got just enough perfect amount of detail to feel, for one, lived in because of what's going on in the story, which you'll figure out. The textures in the foreground have a nice amount of detail. The backgrounds really give depth and scale to a lot of things. But also you get to the boss fights. Each of the zones, and I'm not going to show you a boss fight so you don't have to worry, but each of the zones that you go in and the abilities that you find make the boss fights unique and fun and challenging. But when you beat them, it's that nice little satisfying fist pump. But again, with those accessibility settings, you don't have to worry about things being too crazy. You can tweak it to how difficult or not that you want it to be. And overall, this game, I'm going to want to explore every single inch of this thing if I can find the time to do it. And the more you explore, the more you're rewarded. And that's another thing. As you run around the zone that you're in, trying to figure out, is this jumping puzzle probably worth it? More often than not. Am I working towards something? Most of the time. A lot of the areas that you explore, the nooks and crannies, or the hidden zones that need abilities that you don't have those and you got to come back to, hence the Metroidvania title. All of those, when you finally get the abilities and you come back, pair with something really, really cool. You've got the ability to take a picture of your screen and save it to the mini-map, and then you can go on the mini-map and look at that picture and say, okay, this thing that I think I need to interact with, I can come back to later, and it saves it in-game. You've got a limited number, you can't do it for everything, but if you kind of figure out the strategic places to use that as you work through, then when you come back and you satisfy the requirement for whatever you need, you can take that memory down and then use that somewhere else. So that's another one of, like, that is a feature for Metroidvanias that absolutely blew my mind, and I'm surprised it hasn't been in another game. But the worlds are awesome, the bosses are amazing, and that feature of, as you explore, coming across areas that you know you'll have to come back to later and saving a picture in the minimap, really, really cool. So honestly, without showing too much, hopefully this gives you an idea by me telling you what's out there. There's a whole lot to explore, and every inch of this game is well made. So as I wrap up my time with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, this is kind of a fitting place to do the review, because you've got the detail up front, the background, the art, and everything else I've covered. Combat, accessibility, build styles with amulets and abilities, and so much more that I didn't show you because I tried to keep it spoiler free, and I hope you appreciated that. But for me, the Prince of Persia was one of the most pleasant surprises I've had in a little while, and I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. It was amazing. Without a question in my mind, this deserves that mark, and honestly, with everything I've told you, I hope a ton of you pick this up and have a great time playing it. So if you enjoyed the review, drop a like below. Leave a comment if you've got questions, thoughts, opinions, or if you play it and come back here later, let me know what you think about it. If you want to find me on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Ebontis, or Twitter, it's Ebontis as well. But if you're new to the channel, I know I've covered a lot of Destiny in the past and will continue to do so as things are relevant, but I also plan to do a lot of variety of this year with previews, reviews, beginner's guides that I had success with last year, and a lot of other stuff. So thank you guys for being here, and if you enjoy it, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell, and I hope to see you in my next video because there's a lot to cook in 2024, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys a whole lot of stuff. Thank you very much, have a great one, and enjoy.